Hi, I'm Derek Hopper with Principal LED, and today we're going to go over how to service RGB systems. Your three main contact points that you're going to run into issues typically are going to be your power supply, your controller or amplifier, or the LEDs themselves. And today we're going to go through on how to eliminate each one of those as a possible problem and hopefully figure out what the issue is. First, we're going to start with the power supply. When you're going through, the typical issues that you see are going to be a color isn't working or colors might be blended together where they shouldn't be. If you have any colors that are mix and matching where they are blended together, say on your controller you have it on blue, but for whatever reason when you have it on your amplifier it's a mix between red and blue, the easiest solution there is that you could have a crossed wire somewhere. Your blue wire and your red wire are most likely connecting, and you just need to go through the strand and make sure that all of your leads are either not grounded somewhere or at the very least are capped off so that you don't have any exposed wire. After that, the next system that you need to look at is the power supply. All you need to do for that is turn your LEDs to the white setting, which as you can see in this case, our controller has the white, but our amplifier does not. Right off the bat, that's going to tell us that most likely our issue is with the amplifier itself. But to test that theory, you can get on your color wheel and just take it through. As you can see right now, they're both on blue and the amplifier is functioning fine. However, as I transition into the red, the controller is working fine, but this automatically jumps into green. And as I cycle through, it comes back. So most likely, we know automatically this is going to be the issue. But for the sake of this video, we're going to start at square one. And the easiest way to do that, to make sure that you don't have to have another installer out there with you and you can do this on your own, is to set your LEDs, your controller, whatever it is, to the white setting. What this does is that it turns a 12 volts, it puts 12 volts to every single color in your RGB system. So you have 12 volts on blue, green, and red, whereas typically if you were on red, you'd have 12 volts going to red and 0 going to blue and green. White maxes these out, and it's the easiest way to make sure, as opposed to having to have your buddy on the phone and say, okay, well, it's on red now, what do you see? And go back and forth. That can take precious time away from you, and when you're in the field, installation time is everything. So now you can see we have our LEDs on the controller set to white. However, we're not getting the same thing out of here. To start off, you're going to turn your voltmeter on, set it to DC, and you're going to go from your primary power supply into your amplifier, into your controller, and just put the positive and negative on. As we can see, we're getting 12 volts on this one, and coming into here on the amplifier, we're getting 12 volts as well. It's good news, means it's not our power supplies. We can move on to the next potential issue. So the next one could be, even though this is showing white, you could still have something crossed in here, and maybe this is the one that's working and your controller is what's off. So now all you do is come into here, and you're going to test the same thing. You're going to put it on the positive, and you're going to go through and test. So right now I'm on my red, and as you can see coming off the controller, I'm getting 12 volts on my red, 12 on green, and 12 on blue. So that tells me that everything on these is working exactly as they're supposed to be. Now that we've verified that the controller with the power coming in and going out is where it needs to be, we're going to move on to our amplifier. As I've already shown, the power coming into the power from the power supply to the amplifier is at the full 12 volts. These terminals right here, I'll show if I'm getting the correct voltage from the controller into the amplifier before I go into the output side. So all we're going to do is verify that each channel is getting 12 volts as it's supposed to be as well. So we see that the green is getting 12 on the input side, as is the red and the blue. So that says everything coming into the system is exactly how it's supposed to be. So now we need to go to the output side of the amplifier. Going from positive to the green, see we're getting the full 12 volts. However, the red you can see is only getting 4.3, and the blue is back up to 12. Immediately this lets us know where our problem is. As we saw when we were cycling it through, it went from blue directly into green, but skipped over the red. Now we know why. So you run into this issue, first thing you're going to automatically do, get rid of your amplifier, and you're going to swap it out for a new one. can already see, everything is white on both of these as it should be, but just to double check, we're going to go through the exact same process we just did. Starting on the input side of the amplifier, we're going to verify that the power coming from our power supply is at the max 12 volts, and it is. And then we're going to go through each color again to make sure that the signal coming from the controller into the amplifier is at full strength. As you can see, the green is at 12, red and blue are all functioning correctly. We come to the output side, go to green, we have 12, whereas red before is at 4.3. We've swapped out the amplifier and now is at 12 as it should be, and the blue is still at 12 as it should be as well. So now just to verify, everything is getting 12 volts as it should be. We're going to go into our controller, whatever it may be, and take it through the paces and make sure that everything's functioning correctly. So we'll start with blue, come around. Now before, I mentioned to you that there's possibility that if you see this issue where I'm going into red on the amplifier, but there's an odd color on this side, that you could have crossed wires. And this is a perfect example down here. Right now, if you can see it, my green and red cords have exposed wire and they are crossing each other. So all I need to do is come in and make sure they're separated. Typically on an install, these would be either capped off completely or cut off, so you don't have to worry about that at all. Because if you do happen to have a channel letter or a sign that has a metal return on it, and these are grounding out together on it, there's a possibility that you'll have run into the same issue. Now that I've separated them, I can continue on. And as you can see, both the controller and the amplifier are synced up perfectly together, and you're not having any more issues. There are other possibilities that there could be additional issues out there. If you run into any of those, they could be a little more complicated. Feel free to give our customer service a call at 325-227-4577. We have many technicians available in customer service and in IT. Thank you for joining us today, and we hope this helped.